Hi, good morning. Welcome to Come In and Get Comfy. This is our first episode. Yay! I brought Taylor Swift with me in case you guys wanted to know, because this has been a long time coming. Okay. And I am so excited to be here with you guys today. And I am also excited to have my beautiful cousin, Anela, with me here today. Thank you so much for coming and joining us. Happy to have you.
Me. I appreciate your invitation.
So, we're gonna get into some healing modalities that my cousin has dived into and been so willing to share her experience with me. And I really appreciate that. So, and I've learned a lot. So, I wanted to bring my cousin on the podcast to talk about the life she has created for herself and the journey to get here in this wellness space and just living a healthy lifestyle and mental health and all the things that encompass that. So, welcome, my cousin, Anela.
Hello. Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
This is my very first maiden voyage. This might be a little wonky at first, but we're going to work it out. And I appreciate everybody's patience while we get where we want to go. So, first things first, I want to highlight the episode's theme is going to be about healing, comfort, and finding peace in your life. And I think that Anela represents a really good example of that. I've known Anela, she's my cousin, so I've known her for a long time. She's my cousin by marriage. So we haven't known each other our whole life, but ironically, we kind of went to school together when we were kids and then knew each other later when our families joined. And we've always had a really close bond and just really vibed with each other. So I really have been drawn to Anela and watched her growth process from when we were kids to this beautiful human being that she is and continues to be and grows and learns and teaches others how to feel safe and whole within themselves. And it's been wonderful watching you go through this process and then being so inspired to follow in your footsteps and find my own pathway to living in a softer life and honoring myself a lot more.
Yeah, and
Thank
here you
you.
are. Congratulations.
Yeah. So how did this all come to be? Like you and I both, went through our like angry time of life, I would say, like frustrated time of life where we weren't really feeling like ourselves and we had to find something different. And how did you, what was kind of a time in your life that you just like knew it was time to make a big change?
Yeah, that's like a really interesting question because as you ask it, I'm like, yeah. Actually, I feel like I was like often presented with these times when I felt like I wanted to make a big change. But I'm remembering like shortly after our grandmother died. Um, I got a letter that I actually don't know now if she wrote it or if my grandpa wrote it or our grandpa wrote it. Um, but it was a letter that I got. I was like 23, 22 years old when she died, and I was in a bar in the middle of the day where I was like working and just like doing my 20s. And it was more or less like a kahea call to action to be like, like, we love you, get your shit together. Like we wanted more for you than this. Uh, it was very loving, but it was like, go to school, go back to school. And so I think like maybe more than any other time that catalyzed me into really being like serious about like living in a way that they would be proud.
Right.
Like they never really judged me, at least not to my face. I felt really held and loved by my grandparents, even though I was like definitely a black sheep in other circles of my family. And for her last wishes for me to go back to school was like a really big invitation into what I interpret now as like their intentions and what they thought I deserved for my life. So that was kind of the beginning. And then it just took another, like, what, 25, 30 years.
Yeah, an invitation, I would say, but also maybe like a hand on your back. Here, I'll show you the way, honestly, it feels
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. And then yeah, 20 years later. So that's something that I definitely want to address in this space is that first of all, everyone is welcome here and we celebrate everybody and we honor everybody. And each person is going to find their own way. And it's a work in progress. That's why I feel like it's called a practice because you have to remind yourself over and over again to get back on the practice of being in yourself and with yourself and connected to your higher power, spirit, universe, whatever that means for you. And this is years of practice and culmination to be where you are today. And I don't want anybody to get the idea that you're going to be fixed overnight, if you will. Fixed is the word, or you feel better overnight. You take baby steps down pathways to finding yourself and feeling out where you're supposed to go and just your way to being a good human being and participant to give back in the earth. So I just want to say that this is not an overnight thing. This is a lot of work that you put in.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would go so far as to say that it's actually probably going to feel a lot worse before it feels better, right? Like we come by our strategies really honestly, and they help us and protect us and keep us in alive and in survival all throughout all kinds of things. And so when we start to turn towards the things that either we believe are right for us or we believe we should be following, or the things that are really like calling us that we can't even put our fingers on, a lot of times it strips away the things that have really taken care of us, and it takes away like our armoring, our protective gear, and then life gets a lot harder for a while.
Right.
And so there's like a part of me in the moment where you're like, we went through our angry phase, and I was like, girl, I
A little angry.
love that fighter. Like
Yeah.
part of me still is like, what are we doing here? Why are we so calm all the time?
No, it is so hard. Like that is like, and if that's who you are, you have to honor that. I'm the same way, girl. I love, like I feel so good spending time and space with you and the ladies that I was able to spend community time with was so pouring into me. Like, oh my God, I was soaking it up. So beautiful. But my baseline is everybody knows that. And I've just started to embrace it. Like it is what it is. And while I've also realized like I don't want to be angry all the time. So I have got a lot of tools in my toolbox now to when I do feel that anger or whatever, I really have tools to manage it and process it and let it go and come back to myself. I would say, and I don't know if this is true for you, but in the early days, the beginning times when I was super angry all the time, just pissed off about everything, when I finally started to realize like, oh God, I don't want to live like this.
Mm.
I just don't want to live like this. Why am I so angry all the time? All the time. Can I have some joys or anytime? What makes me happy? None of this apparently is making me happy. So I think that was one thing that kind of put me on my track was like, yeah.
Yeah, there's like a couple things that makes me think of. It's like anger's that secondary emotion that we go to because it's whatever, it's within our range of expression that we can let out into the world for whatever reason. And underneath it is the unprocessed emotion. And so when we process the emotion, when we heal the emotion that's there underneath the anger, then the anger gets to have choice. And so the other thing that I was thinking is like now the troublemaking that I do is generally it comes across as like principal, somebody who's gonna like who can take a stand, although I don't always like somebody who can take a stand, and then somebody who likes to create mischief. Like I really get to live more into like how our grandpa behaved, which was like generally like good-natured but very mischievous. Like the two of them had this way of causing like just lighthearted trouble. And so now that I get to be choiceful in my anger, I get to like not be as charged into situations that I might be wanting to create damage and more just like creating mischief and like messes that other people get to clean up later. And then I can save that anger for when it's really justified.
That is a beautiful sentiment. And to be aware of that, like, that's so wonderful. And also, yes, that mischief is, I do the same thing kind of like to honor my dad. Like, my dad was just a great guy. And I really just, like want to emulate that goodness and that's me. That is part of me. And so it's in here somewhere. That side needs to come out. And so that's what I've been working towards. So I feel that emulating the people that really inspire us so much too. And then tabling our anger in a different way. I love that. Okay, let's move on to how you got into somatics.
Yeah. Do you want the long or the short version of that?
Whatever you want to share. It seems like it's a great story. So maybe we can do a whole nother pod about that.
Yeah. I mean, so really like somatics is it's popular right now. It's like a word that people hear, especially in the wellness space. But if we think about what it really means, it's like integrating the body from the inside out and all of its wholeness. And so we used to have this like operating belief or philosophy that like we can think and therefore we are. Right. And there's like a period where separating from the body is kind of at a like optimized, so or optimal. So there's like this concept we could like override the body or push through pain or like will our way through things. And that is true. And then there's a cost that happens because the body and the nervous system it is still doing what it's doing underneath whatever the mind is like sharing, operating, like commanding. So from like a just a basic what is somatics, it's like how our bodies operate just like naturally from like the way that our energy moves to the way that our muscles are configured to the ways that our skeletal structure supports us to the ways that our nervous system enacts different strategies to protect us, etc. And for me, living like I grew up assimilated into white culture in this like rural place, the place in California, and was disconnected from my culture, which like lives in the body. My culture, like the people still operate inside the land, like we like fish and we're in the water and we're in the mountains and we're in the plants and like our operating systems are still moving in this way that requires us to be fully present in our bodies. So I have that inside my blood. So like living in this place that was very disembodied, like what kind of status can you achieve and what kind of pedigrees or credentials can you achieve? What kind of salaries are you earning? All of that stuff was confusing for my system
Yeah.
and frustrating for my system when like I I wanted to be in the water, or I wanted to be without shoes, or I wanted to be like dancing, or I wanted to be making music. So from a very young age, I was in my body in a different kind of way. And all of that frustration, all that anger that like you're alluding to, it's all because I was trying to be like programmed and shaped out of that, like conditioned to believe that that was not valuable, conditioned to believe that that was like stigmatized or like like worth less. So all of the things I would say, so my somatic journey began when I was 6 and I started to swim, and then when I was 14 and I started to dance hula, and then when I was 15 and I started to spend my summers at my grandma and grandpa's place and really like get in the land.
Yeah. And the dose of them
Mm.
and what they embody and bring out in you. It's so validating.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I have a feeling, and I don't know if it's just because we're cousins and we have this like shared set of grandparents, or if it's because they're just like that phenomenal. But like I have a feeling we're gonna talk a lot about them today. They're here. But yeah, I think like I was walking this sort of dual existence of what I thought societally I was supposed to do, familially I was supposed to do, and trying to catch up to these expectations of like getting somewhere. And then also this like calling back to my body of which was really like parallel to my calling to come back home. So, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, eventually I made it to a somatics training. The whole thing was about getting back into our bodies. And when I got back into my body from this like corporate place where I had been living for some time, I was like, oh, what's all this stuff? This is all these things that were here from the beginning. And so it's been a process of remembering and
Yeah.
reclaiming. And then once I did that, like I blew up my whole world the way it
Yeah.
was. I
You
couldn't.
can't unsee it anymore. After you see it, you're like, I gotta go. This is not for me.
Exactly, exactly. So when that happened, it only made sense for me to just keep leaning into it, keep learning more about it. And then it happened that I could be of service to other people, helping them through the same process.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's just so beautiful, so wonderful that you just you're following what you're called to do, and it is unfolding in front of you and supporting you in your life. And that is so beautiful. And then, so that brings us to how you then started to shift your life into being an entrepreneur and into helping others, and then really creating getting back home on island and really honoring your body and your natural way of being and what feels best to your inner soul and your mind, body, and soul, what how you feel the best. And that is what I want to hear about, how you got to this point in just self-sustaining, and I'm sure a hell of a lot of work.
I think it's hard to be, how do I want to say this? There was a point in time where I was on my journey of healing that I had like cleared enough of the ground cover to see what the root of everything that I had been like longing for, all the things that were creating like the real pain in me and the real turmoil in me revolved around being connected to my family, my grandparents, my ancestry, my lineage, my home, my land, my culture. And like having been like placed in a like being been placed in a pot, like a potted plant for all of my life and just trying to like break out and create roots. And I couldn't do any more healing work from over there. I like had to come home at some point because everything was pointing like, well, you're this Hawaiian who has this story about being a Hawaiian away from home, but why are you staying away from home? And so then there was this whole like piece of the work that I needed to do um, around like forgiving myself enough that I don't know enough to be my age and to come back home kind of empty-handed without anything to contribute to Hawaiian society is really it's really a difficult journey and it's a difficult ask. It's considered rude to show up empty-handed. And so, but if you don't grow anything where you live that is of value to the people that you're coming to visit, it's a humbling experience. And so I had a quest, like in the middle, I was on like a journey to try to find and build skills that could be of value to my people so that when I got home, I would have something to offer. And I still don't know that I don't know that that's fully like resolved and integrated inside myself. But I think it did set me on a course to see like what could be useful that I could do where I could be contributing to like the economy here, to contributing to the wellness of people here. And yeah, over time, I think it's starting to come more into focus. When I began the practice, I was like, oh, well, I can do my private practice and that will give me a chance to like volunteer and be in the community more. I think over time, I'm starting to understand like actually integrating somatic work with indigenous wisdom is like really, really what we need to do because like yeah, and it was really taken from indigenous people anyway, right? Like
Right.
we all knew this stuff at one point before somebody who had like a fancy pedigree wrote it down and sold it back to us. So that's right.
That is so profound and lovely. And I just sit and absorb all the things that you just said. It's so wonderful that I hope to be as in tune with what you just said in my own life so much. And that is so motivating. And I really appreciate it that you just shared that with us because there are so many people that are so far removed from considering anything on the level of which you just expressed. I don't think I've ever heard anything like that out loud before. And it's so amazing. And we need more people doing that and willing to just be willing to search within themselves to see how they can most give back to their community and the people, their heritage or their family line or just their neighbors, for instance. How can we all be coming together to help each other? It's just been too much separation. And it's just like, it's very apparent on so many levels on planet right now. Like the separation you were feeling from your people, your home, your planet, and the separation each of us are feeling, from what's happening regionally in our government right now. We don't need to talk about all of that, but it's separation, and trying to group people together and shame groups and la 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 la. And all of us need to get away from that. And we need to remember that we're all human beings and we're all connected and we're all trying to figure it out. And some of us, like you, have spent the time listening and connecting with yourself to what the universe is trying to tell you, and our ancestors are trying to tell us, like, hey, we can see a bigger picture. This is the way. Oh, wow, that was awesome. That was awesome. Do you feel like your philosophy of coaching and I feel like you embody your coaching, like you live your life in the same way that you share your life with your clients and your group. I definitely feel like you do that. And how was it hard to integrate the two? Did you feel like maybe at first it was you were faking it till you make it, or how did that
Yeah, that's a great question. It is really hard. it's still hard. I mean, I don't think people, you were the first person to ever tell me, like, look, I see you now, I knew you then. And that resonated. I felt so seen by that because it's who I am. Like I didn't stop being the person that I am, that I was, just because now I'm not angry all the time, for example, you know? But it was really, really hard to especially find my voice from here where I'm not constantly like switching to see who am I talking to. How am I gonna like come across right now? I don't code switch nearly as much. I bring more of myself forward, which it takes more energy. I'm constantly having to like really feel for what's the words that I want to say. And then I think I think I freak people out sometimes, to be honest. They don't realize like, oh, she's a real person. Like, you know, I'm just regular.
Yeah,
And also, I'm like, I think there's a lot of people who were very comfortable with me for a long time because of what I showed them or I didn't show them. And
yeah,
now they like see or they hear from me and they're like realizing that maybe they didn't know me as well as they thought they did. And so there's like risk relationally in that.
for sure. But I feel like you're living your purpose. It's not, there's very much less masking, I would say, in the world. I feel like you're more your authentic self. Like instead of 40% of the time, you're that 80% of the time,
Yeah.
maybe even more, maybe 90% of the time. I'm not really sure. I don't see you as much as I would like to, but I definitely feel like I'm still masking 40% of the time, 45% of the time. I'm definitely getting there.
It's hard, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's really, really hard. And I still have a lot of work to do around people pleasing and things like that. I'm definitely working through those things myself, which is like 5 podcasts. So we'll get there someday, but not today. But I just kind of want to mention that because, everybody's on their own journey and it's such a blessing to have somebody in front of you and making a path and or following a path that someone else made for them, and you can reap the benefits from the hard work that someone else has done. Okay,
Mhm.
now our time is getting a little bit shorter, but I do want to bring this back around, and the reason that I kind of structured it this way is because I recently had this wonderful opportunity to spend time in a community that my cousin created. And it was a beautiful space that helped me significantly. And I would say got me over the threshold of a lot of the fear that I was holding on to get this podcast off the ground. I've been having this podcast in my head for 10 years and I've just been afraid to use my voice as well. Afraid of the repercussions of what I say because sometimes I was saying some crazy things. But the Makawalu process
Mm.
that I was so lucky to be a part of and a process. It helped me significantly. And I would like to share a little blurb about the Makawalu process and then have Anela explain to me how she created this beautiful community. And a Makawalu process is a traditional Hawaiian approach to exploring multiple perspectives and a deeper understanding and how to deconstruct problems, issues, ideas, and then how to reconstruct them. And there's, I believe, 8 perspectives that you use to look at that. And it encourages openness, curiosity, and holistic reflection. And then if you guys can just take a time to kind of look through your own eyes and see, how you can maybe integrate this process into your life, it would be super beneficial for you. So what do you want to tell us about that Makabalu process that you created with
Yeah.
your group?
I mean, first to just like be really super transparent is actually not a traditional model at all. It's not.
Oh,
It uses So the Makawalu Umaliola model is just something that I started to dream on and pray on and really like doodle on like a couple of years ago, but really like all of my life of feeling for what does a balanced life mean? Like actually, if I was to be fulfilling on all of my kuleana, all of my responsibilities in a good way, and I was to be like fully sufficient and whole and on purpose, what would need to be in balance? And what emerged were these perspectives, these different aspects of my life that just kept like showing up as themes over and over again. And there were eight. And that uh that helped me to look at this concept of Makawalu, which is an Olelo Hawaii, a Hawaiian word that means eight eyes, or another meaning for it is the way that we can look at things from multiple different perspectives to understand it more deeply. So this like concept of living inside of a singular worldview, that's like a really like ethnocentric or like Western way of being. Like, oh, we live in late stage capitalism, and so everything is like disembodied and supplied to us through like mass consumerism. And we are in these individual family pods, and we are trying to like get ourselves to some particular outcome, right? Like all of the things that we're fed to believe in Western society. But actually, if you're like part of a marginalized group, if you're part of an indigenous like land-based knowledge center, if you're part of like a BIPOC identity, if you're like differently abled or like neurodiverse, you understand because you're living in an alternate worldview than that worldview already. So you already know something's different. I feel in a different way. I see the world in a different way than what's happening. But
Yeah.
you never have to. It's like a source of privilege. I just get to walk around, and my way of thinking is the only way of thinking.
Yeah.
So I started to really do the work to say, well, if I trusted myself and I really believed that like what I'm trying to balance and cultivate and feel for in my life was legitimate and had worth, what would
Yes.
they be? And that's where the Makawalu model comes from. It was first spirit, right? Like our ancestors and spirit and the gods and the people who guide us so that we are not the biggest thing in our universe. We're not meant to be. So who are
Right.
we held by? Who are we led by? Who's our compass? And then from there, all of the different components of land and food and relationship and body and storytelling and resource and what eventually turns into our expression, our skillful expression of all of these things. So I kind of smooshed that together
Yeah.
with the way that I want to live in the world is connected to other people. I want to be connected to other people in like rich and reciprocal ways where we can care for each other and where I don't have to hold everything down for everybody all the time because there are other people holding different parts.
Yeah.
It's based also on this concept of an ahupua'a where we all are sharing resources, but we're all contributing in. So
Right.
the process turned out to be an experience and an experiment of community building while everyone exploring their own like dimensions of self and relationships with the world around them through these eight different perspectives. And those
Beautiful.
they're all informed by like traditional Hawaiian concepts because that's who I am. That's who my teachers were. Yeah.
Right.
But everybody was invited and is invited to really be in an exploration of their own expressions of all of these.
Yeah. And what a fantastic way to give back, period. Like just educating other people on your culture and on how to just be a better person. I mean, we need more of that. We need more of that. And you came up with this, and I stand in awe of you in that. And in the group, I gained so much things that I've kind of already known. The most amount of validation that I have ever received was in that group. It was a group of women, and I shared this with Anela before, but I want everyone to know this. It was so amazing. The point I'm trying to make is I spent time in community with women that weren't judging me, weren't talking about me behind my back, weren't trying to get something from me, weren't trying, it was like literally nothing I've ever experienced before in my life. Every single person there accepted me for who I was, what I brought to the table or what I didn't bring to the table. And when I spoke, I felt loved, I felt heard, I felt validated. And that was the first time that's ever happened to me. And I can't imagine how many people are living on this planet that live their whole lives without having any of that in their purview, anywhere near them. And because went through that process and I had that experience, I am so much more dedicated and committed to making sure that more people feel the love that I felt in that group that day. I almost made it through this whole podcast without tearing up. But you do that to me. You do that to me, my sensitive side. But I loved it. I loved it. I wanted it more. I literally made my job give me 2 hours a day, every day off of work, or every Monday or whatever Monday. And they were just like, you're so annoying. And I'm like, and I don't care. I'll call in sick if you do not give me the time off. I want to be with these ladies. Like they give me so much more. And it was wonderful.
Because you were at work. Great. What a blessing. Like you took time off work to come. That's
Yeah,
what.
I made it so I was not going to miss it. It felt so good from the first thing. I was like, I'm committed. I had a PTO slip that I filled out for every one of those dates. So, I mean, I hope I would wager that it was just as profound for the other ladies that I spent time in community with. And what was also something that was super special for me to realize, and we're coming kind of close to our time, but I wanted to say that I realized how much work I still need to do. Where I am, and like I thought, oh shit, I'm good. I've done all these things. I'm feeling great. I ditched my baggage. I'm losing weight. I'm actually literally losing weight because I'm losing my baggage, and it feels so good. But the way that some of the ladies that have been doing the work are so in touch with themselves and what they need for themselves and the path that they are charging down is so inspiring. And I cannot wait to dive more into these techniques so that I can get where I'm going and put the work in and be able to inspire others in a similar way. So thank you for that. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. If you didn't know, you're making a difference in the world.
Thank you. Are you open to a question yourself?
Absolutely.
You were talking about having never experienced being in a group that felt so like safe and generative and like accepting of you. What is having access to that level of intimacy and belonging make possible for you?
So much. So much. I feel supported for the first time in my whole life. Like
What?
having that support, having Jenny check in on me and still support me. And I have not been the best communicator and throughout this process, and just show the compassion of like maybe seeing me, like maybe she's been there before, and that was just like I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm getting there. And it is messy. Woo! It is so messy, girls. You guys, this shit is messy, okay? And sometimes it's 5 steps forward and 2 steps back, but whatever. Keep going forward. Keep doing it you know.
Yeah.
Some days it looks like you're in your bed all day because that's what you need. That's what your body needs. You got to listen to yourself. You got to listen to those things. And I'll be perfectly honest, I got some blocks coming into this today, which is it leads me to procrastinate and not be able to focus. And so I do a lot of things last minute. The universe thinks that's hilarious. Definitely wait till the last minute to give me the download that I need to come through to put together this little sheet that we have that it takes some time. That's part of the trauma. Like, and I honor that. I'm just trying to give myself some space and peace to know that I'll get it done. I'll get it done. And some people are going to be offended by it, and it's going to be okay. And that's going to suck, but it'll teach me.
Yeah. I mean, that's been my experience, and I'll keep this brief because I know you said we're coming up on time, but my experience of finally finding our people is when we're finally able to express and be witnessed in those places of trauma and soreness and be accepted and related to, we're able to let something complete inside of that. Like we hold it because we're never able to fully let it be expressed with others who can validate it and like be there with us and say like, oh yeah, I think I've been there before, right? And so when we find each other and we can start healing and collective, then we can start making moves that to let down some of the baggage that we've had to carry by ourselves for all this time. And
Yeah. And honestly, it's so interesting because I feel like it almost instantly goes away. Like you really, the pain and the suffering, like I'll give you like for instance, like when I first started, everybody, this is wild. For years, every single time I interacted with Anela, I would sob. Every single time, I'm not exaggerating, I'm not kidding. When my family would tell me she was coming to town, I would sob. When my family surprised me with her one time and her kids, and I couldn't even fucking talking. And it was so embarrassing. And I had no idea. I had no idea why. I had no idea what it was. No idea what it was. And gradually throughout I mean, even right before I was invited to the Makawalu group, I'm crying. I'm just crying. And I don't know why. But it felt good. And it was just, I felt safe with this person. And I realized that through the process. And she knew I needed the process. So she invited me. And that is what, I got through this entire thing with just not sobbing. And that is the biggest win for me. Like, oh, I'm a total crier, And so to get to the other side of this interview and I haven't had to take off my glasses to blot my eyes is a huge win. And it's massive progress for me in my life, and not in just dealing with you, in dealing with others. My emotions have been more manageable since doing this. And I just really believe in it. And I want to share it with others. And so I'm not sure if you want to shout out your coaching business. She has a website you guys can go to and learn about all these things.
yeah, for sure. You can find me at my website is Anela Barboza or ulele_coaching.com. I'm also on Instagram on both of those, Anela Barboza and ulele_coaching. Yeah, and really you can kind of find me out in the world. Please don't come to find me in Hawaii unless you live here.
We do not do that. No one do that.
But I would love to talk story and visit with anybody who wants to chat more or is curious about how to get in the work, is already on path doing the work.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for this amazing time that we spent together. It's always amazing. Um, wow, that was great. And I loved it. I loved every minute of this. Thank you so much for the time that you spent today and sharing yourself with us. And everybody, I hope that you were inspired. I hope that you are ready to get on your healing path and spend more time with us here at Come In and Get Comfy. And let's do the work together.
Mm.
Thank you, Anela. I appreciate it.
You cousin, thanks for the invite. Aloha, everybody. See you soon. Ahui ho.